Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. So today I'd like to read a happy piece of news that comes from the Spokesman Review. This says, backed by former autoshop owner, right to repair bills pick up steam in Congress and state houses. Now this would not be a local bill, this would be a national bill, which again carries a lot more weight when you have a piece of legislation that is not going to affect 1 to 4 million or maybe 20 million people, but rather over 300 million people. This says, a bipartisan movement advocating for Americans' right to repair their own phones, cars, and tractors is gaining momentum in state legislatures across the country, and now in Congress too. Representative Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, a Democrat who ran an auto repair shop until she was elected last year to represent Southeast Washington, has supported 2 bills that would give consumers and independent repair shops access to parts, tools, and data needed to repair cars at lower costs. She said a trend toward proprietary parts and throwaway products has raised costs and hurt small businesses. Now, this is what I really like to see. I like to see people that got into politics that actually were business owners, that actually were tradespeople. They did something, and now, as a result of doing something and seeing the problems, have decided that they're going to try and do something about it when they get in office. You saw this with Tom Brand, a farmer in the state of Nebraska that was aggravated with one of his representatives, who laughed at the people who came in support of right to repair in 2017. So he decided to run for Senate. He won. And when he won, he reintroduced a bill that was laughed out of the room. And here you have something similar happen. You have somebody that ran an automotive repair shop that decides they're going to go into Congress, and once they go into Congress, they sponsor a right to repair bill that would make it easier for both consumers and repair shops to be able to repair motor vehicles. As she says, this is a critical piece of not just supporting the trades, but also who we are as Americans. She said, our cultural heritage is really founded in people that believe in self-sufficiency, that we're not consumers. We were a nation of producers, and we are losing that rapidly. The things that are being made now are increasingly designed to be disposable and not repairable. I believe that she is 100% correct. Modern cars and trucks include computers and proprietary parts that have made drivers more reliant on dealerships rather than independent auto shops and aftermarket part manufacturers that can offer lower costs. Gluesenkamp-Perez gave the example of BMW foregoing dipsticks in newer cars. You're not supposed to check your oil if you're driving a new Beamer, I guess, she said. You're supposed to take it to the dealership. And more, especially with a lot of emissions controls and things like that, when an engine throws a code, it can stop the entire machine from working, even if there's not a mechanical problem at all. The Repair Act, which the Skamania County lawmaker introduced with GOP Representative Neil Dunn of Florida and 2 other lawmakers, would require automakers to share the data, tools, and instructions needed to repair their vehicles. She said not having those resources holds small businesses and raises costs for car owners. Now, one of the things that makes me smile here is if you look at just the voting history of Representative Neil Dunn of Florida and Representative Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez of Washington, these 2 could not be more polar opposite in terms of their political views. And unlike so many other cases in Washington, where when there is a bipartisan effort, it is usually to either screw you or spy on you, and you're getting screwed in some way when both parties agree. Here, both parties are agreeing on something that would increase consumer freedom and also increase competition in the marketplace, which is a really nice thing. One of the things that I've really tried to focus on over the past 10 years with right to repair is this is not a partisan issue. This is not a Democrat versus Republican issue, a left versus right issue, a woke versus anti-woke issue. It's really just do you actually own what you buy? Do you have the ability to actually maintain your property, or does the manufacturer retain their ability to maintain your property after you purchase the device? Do you wish to be controlled, or do you not wish to be controlled? Really is what this comes down to, and it's great to see that people across the political spectrum that probably agree on virtually nothing are coming together on this issue. I actually had the pleasure and the honor of getting to speak with some staff members from Representative Neil Dunn's office a few months ago, and they really seemed to be on board with this entirely, and they were more than willing and open to working with constituents to get this done. So great on Neil Dunn and great on Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez as well. And if there's any way that I could help with this type of legislation, getting it moved forward, getting it passed, getting it to work, I am more than happy to be of service in any way that I can. And if this were something that actually had a chance of passing, I'd be happy to fund a lobbying effort to try and ensure that it does not get destroyed. More and more, they're inventing intentionally complex fastening systems, Gluesenkamp-Perez says. Just imagine the world's most complicated Phillips screwhead. You've been wrenching on cars for 40 years, and here you are. You have to buy another tool. It doesn't support the consumer's experience or the material superiority of the machine. It's just a way of edging out independent repair shops. This is the cool thing about having people that actually do this for a living going into Congress. I'm not talking to somebody who believes that when I replace a fuse in an Apple product, that I have now converted it to a PC and that it is now being misrepresented if it's a Mac when it's still a PC. I'm not talking to somebody who thinks the magtrometer is going to explode. This representative in Congress has actually worked on cars in a professional capacity. And as a result of having done that, they understand all of the BS that is going to come from the manufacturer side when they start talking about how everything's going to explode and this, that, and the other if people are actually able to service their own personal property. The SMART Act, which he introduced with Representative Darrell Issa, a California Republican whose car alarm business helped make him the richest member of Congress, aims to lower the cost of car repairs and insurance after collisions. It would amend patent law so that aftermarket manufacturers could make parts like fenders, quarter panels, and doors just 2.5 years after a patent is issued. Automakers can enforce these patents for up to 14 years. So again, one of the things we talk about on this channel when it comes to innovation, and one of the things that's stopping innovation, is the fact that you have companies that will try to do things like patent, I don't know, the pixel formation in an AMOLED display, so that if anybody else tries to make an AMOLED display, they'll say, we want to exclude any company from being able to import an AMOLED into the country. This is anti-innovation, it's anti-competition, and it's not good for the marketplace. Having limitations on these types of things is a good thing, and I am happy to see that this is closer to getting us there. Glusenkamp-Perez said that there are also major environmental benefits to fixing products instead of throwing them out, which often creates toxic waste. Studies have shown that manufacturing a new car can produce more carbon emissions than years of driving an older, less fuel-efficient car. Mining the lithium, nickel, and cobalt required to make batteries that power phones and electric vehicles has been shown to cause pollution and widespread human rights abuses. One of the great tragedies of the environmental movement is that it's sort of gotten turned into a consumer product and not a lifestyle, she said. I really believe that people who fix their own stuff and, can keep their washing machine running for 40 years, I think that's what environmentalism is really about at its core. I like this person already. As is typical of U.S. policymaking, the momentum in Congress has been spurred by legislation at the state level. Lawmakers have introduced right-to-repair bills in at least 20 U.S. states in 2023, according to the U.S. Public Interest Research Group, a nonprofit that supports those efforts, which, by the way, is also very much so supported by me. I like the people at U.S. PIRG. I think they're doing great work. We provide them with good amounts of money and counsel, and I am very, very happy to have a close working relationship with them. They've been racking up wins all over the country recently, and I'm happy to see them do it. Colorado recently passed the nation's first right-to-repair law, limited to electric wheelchairs. In May 2022, a month later, New York became the first state to pass a similar law for electronics. On March 4th, the Washington State House of Representatives passed the Fair Repair Act, which would require electronics manufacturers to share instructions and tools to fix their products with the public. The legislation passed with mostly Democratic support, with State Representative Joel Kretz of Wakanda. Sorry, I just didn't think I was reading that right. Was one of the 4 Republicans to support it. The bill, however, was not considered by the state Senate before this year's legislative session ended. On April 25th, Colorado became the first state to pass a right-to-repair law for tractors and other farm equipment. Democratic Senator John Tester of Montana introduced an agricultural right-to-repair bill in the Senate last year, and Glusenkamp-Perez says she has talked with other lawmakers about introducing similar legislation in the House. We really value consumer choice in America, but especially our agricultural producers, you get so married to one manufacturer, you've got a real investment that you can't afford to change, she said. So we're kind of over a barrel, she put it crudely, and manufacturers are able to and increasingly willing to exploit that reliance. On March 24th, a group of 28 state attorneys generals, including Democrat Bob Ferguson of Washington and Republican Raul Labrador of Idaho, sent a letter calling for federal right-to-repair legislation to the chairs of the House and Senate Commerce Committees, Representative Kathy McMorris Rodgers, Spokane, and Senator Marie Cantwell. As our state's chief consumer protection and antitrust enforcers, we write to respectfully request that you redouble your efforts in the 118th Congress to pass expansive right-to-repair legislation targeted at automobiles, agricultural equipment, and digital electronic equipment to protect our consumers and farmers across the nation, the attorney generals wrote to Cantwell, McMorris, Rodgers, and other committee leaders. The right to repair is a bipartisan issue that impacts every consumer, household, and farm in a time of increasing inflation. The Repair Act has been referred to the House Energy and Commerce Committee, led by McMorris Rodgers. The SMART Act has been referred to the House Judiciary Committee, which is chaired by Representative Jim Jordan in Ohio. Despite the bipartisan support for the bills, strong opposition from corporations that stand to lose profits make passing them into law far from certain. Facing pressure from consumers and lawmakers, companies like John Deere, Apple, and Samsung have recently announced incremental changes to make repairs easier. And one thing that I I really wish more of these articles mentioned, is that these incremental changes are for the most part useless garbage programs that don't actually give consumers or technicians what it is they need in order to perform economically viable repairs the way that we were able to do even just 10 years ago. Glusenkamp-Perez said passing federal right to repair laws would require enough grassroots supports from across the United States to outmuscle corporate lobbying. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. If you're busy, if you're working 3 jobs, you don't have time to lobby and tell your representative what would make your life easier, better, more affordable, she said. What I really need is for everyday people to reach out to the legislators all across rural America, people who work for a living, reaching out and asking the legislators to co-sponsor and support these bills. This is pretty much what I've been saying on this channel for like the past 7 years now. And it's really cool to start hearing it echoed by people that actually have the power to do something about it. That's that. Like, really, this is awesome for numerous reasons. A, you have people that actually work in mechanic shops that are in Congress that are trying to write legislation that actually makes sense for working people. Really cool. There is bipartisan support. Again, these 2 people have probably never voted the same way on an issue in their life, but they are converging on this issue because this is just one of those things. And it's very hard to find one of these things in 2023 that doesn't get stuck due to partisan salt. This is one of those things where you could have Tucker Carlson on Fox, well, not anymore, or I don't know, whoever the hell is on CNN or MSNBC these days, talking to their audience and getting virtually the same reaction from both groups. People are tired of having their freedom taken away. They are tired of being told what they can do with what they buy. They are tired of being told who is allowed to fix what it is they buy. People are sick of it. They want the ability to actually feel like they own something after they've paid for it, whether that's $40,000, $400,000, or even just something that they pay $400 for. And it's good to see that more people are waking up to the idea that you should own what it is that you paid for. It's good to see more people getting into office that are not going to fall for these BS excuses, like I mentioned in one of my earliest lobbying videos back in 2015, where I headed to an assemblyman's office, and he says that Apple's lobbyist said to him, like, crap you not, when you're running a wire on the motherboard, when you're replacing a fuse on the motherboard, when you're replacing a chip, you are converting that Mac into a PC and pretending to your customer that's still a Mac, even though it's now no longer a Mac and now a PC, which is fraud, which is why right to repair is bad. It's good to see new blood in Congress that, even if I may disagree with them on a number of different things, understand that these excuses are complete garbage. Can process it, are technically literate enough to understand that that is not just a steaming pile of garbage, but a lying steaming pile of garbage that should have immediately been kicked in the shins out of his office. I support Neil Dunn and I support Representative Marie Glusenkamp-Perez in their efforts to get this passed. And it's good to see that the conversation that I had a few months ago with Representatives Neil Dunn's member of his staff actually happened to bear some fruit. And I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that these acts, A, don't get destroyed by people from the opposition that try to write in their own little poison pills, and B, actually have a chance of getting passed. And here's what I would ask of all of you. Do what she said. Do what she said. Again, she is one House representative. Neil Dunn is one representative in a Congress that has hundreds upon hundreds of representatives. This stuff is not going to pass without grassroots support, without the public coming together and deciding that this is a good thing. And unlike so many other contentious issues in America right now, this is one of those very few issues where there's just not a lot of people saying, yes, control me harder, daddy. I don't want to be able to own anything. Oh, tell me that I'm not allowed to fix what I own. Yes. It's just, it's one of those things where we actually have a chance. So do what she said. And don't do that shit in the comments. You're like, how do I contact a legislator? Louis, what do I do? You're a grown man. You're a grown woman. If you can feed yourself, if you understand how to use a restroom, if you understand how to take care of yourself, if you know how to get out of bed in the morning, you can figure out how to contact your local legislator without the help of a man that barely graduated high school. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.